City Politics, Ralph and DJ and Ralph, and I'm showing a map of how the elections happen at the block level. This is what's actually happening in your neighborhood. You can see who votes for who, right? And so that's one of the topics we're going to talk about today. I'm going to flip it back and ask our friend DJ, what's up? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? We're actually
Good. Good.
testing out a new Google platform here. I'm actually just went to check it out. I see a big thumbnail that says public funds. So I'm actually checking out your live stream now, and we are actually live on your stream. So I was wondering, because this is a new thing called co-stream. So I thought it might mean that I'm also live, but apparently not. So co-stream just, I guess, is like a StreamYard type thing where instead of using StreamYard, people could just use a direct Google link or a YouTube link to patch into a call.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make it easier for two people to talk to each other. And I think you'd have to use Google Meet, and then it gets a little more confusing. This is easier if it's just two people side by side. And
Yeah.
so I did call it public funds because another topic is people are running for city council today, right? And they're actually in the process. I'm trying, and District 36 is where I am, and I see that nobody's running against the incumbent. But now, all of a sudden, three people show up, and one of them is being objected to in the Board of Elections. I think the general public doesn't realize what a dirty game. Maybe they realize, but they don't know the details of what a dirty game the Board of Elections in New York City and probably everywhere is. And so I just want to point out, I posted on Reddit that in a little Bed-Stuy forum that we should have choice in these elections, in the primaries. And I was just destroyed by 3 or 4 people saying, no, they literally said they don't want choice. So I'd like to ask you, do you want choice in the elections?
Yeah, I do. This is kind of like standard practice amongst the, against the candidates. And a lot of the candidates you can see, this is actually a great opportunity for us to see the difference between what they project themselves as versus the way that they really act. And I'm not saying they're necessarily wrong to do this, right? But they're going to project themselves on a kind and benevolent way. But really, in the end, right, when it comes to power, it's going to be ruthless. So there's going to be these types of activities.
Right. Power does not give up power willingly. Right. Exactly. And but we have to shine. Go ahead. Go ahead. Say again.
No, they can't. I mean, I understand that it's a fight. Like they have other people on their throats, not just us. Trying to fight for our thing. They have people fighting them for the wrong reasons too. Both sides. So
Exactly. Yeah.
unless we
They'll
get
get in trouble.
involved,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and pay
When we say
attention, then they are forced to play that game. Go ahead.
exactly, when we say party boss, it's really that person is just a figurehead that's willing to sacrifice themselves, and there's a lot of forces underneath that, or attacking that. And that's why the current situation in Brooklyn is what it is. Is I think the former party boss Frank Sedio had to give up the reins to some other faction because he sees now that women are the number dominant voter. I literally went to a Democratic forum for the civil court judge in Bed-Stuy Restoration Plaza, and Frank Sedio announced that women are the dominant voter, and I think also black women are the dominant voter. So, of course, he picked a African American woman to be the new party boss, and so I just don't know what's going on. So I don't think his statistics are based in reality. So that's where we come in. We can say, he can say whatever he wants, but it may not be true. Right. And we can look at the census. I don't know. Do you know who's the dominant voter in New York City? I could
I
ask
mean, they
Google.
can actually, actually, I should do more of this research myself, but I do know that the data on how people voted, which districts voted a certain way, this information is worth money. But just so you know, too, I'm actually been at the voting sites, And is there someone there watching everybody who comes in and saying, is this ethnicity, this thing, they'll get some data that they could reach, like such as possibly male, female, right, from the voter rolls, things like that, and they'll know whether you voted or not, so they'll know who's voting, and this is worth a lot of money for a lot of agencies, not just domestic agencies, but also foreign agencies that want to know how to influence our politics. So but then
Absolutely.
there's yeah, but
Go
then
ahead.
there's also, right, the fact of the matter is that this politician at this event, right, we know that blacks are actually, I think there's about 2 million blacks in New York City, right? So they're actually the largest minority. We look at Jews, I think they're about 1 million. So they're significant, right? You can see Chinese is close to 1 million, something. So you could just when you stack up the numbers and stuff like that. So when they say black women are the strongest, they have very strong turnout. This is true, but he may have been tailoring that specifically to appeal to that demographic, and he might say something else somewhere else. So who knows how honest he's being?
Exactly, exactly. And so that's where we come in. Yeah, there are more than 3.8 million eligible voters. This was from 2021. This is how piss poor the news is. And but I doubt that they vote. Saw more than 1 million people vote, or 26%. So this was back in 2021, the Democrat and Republican primaries, and only 26% of the people voted. I can show, I also worked the polls, and I've seen it's not good. But it's exactly right. They say whatever they want, wherever they want, and the truth is the truth, right? And
Yeah.
and we can also see those voters that actually vote. You can see on a map at the block level, which I was showing, I think, earlier, exactly how people vote in every election. And it even shows things like where their strongholds are. So I'll show a map if we want, or it's easier to just talk about it. This is the map that I was talking about. I'm going to just share it here because in the co-stream you can't also share your screen. So this is an example. And the important thing about this is the Trump voters, because everybody listening or watching later will know about Trump, but not everybody knows about every assembly person. And what the colors are showing us is the areas that are red are blocks that majority voted for Trump. And you'll notice there's different shades of red and different shades of blue. And what that means is if it was very, very close, but the majority voted for Harris, right? This is the previous presidential election. It will be very light blue. So it's kind of interesting that the blocks neighborhoods vote very similarly, right? It's not like there's a polka dot pattern here, right? What's happening is if there's a block, you can actually pick out Hasidic Williamsburg here, right? If you look right here, if I zoom in, you see that pocket right here. Let me just see if that's on the screen. Yeah, this pocket right here where my hand is, right
I
here.
can't. Okay, I see it now. Okay, all right. So that's a
Yeah,
blue
yeah.
area. Okay.
No, it's not blue. There's this area here. I can zoom in. This is part of Hasidic Williamsburg. This one, right?
Oh yeah, I was
And
wondering about that. I saw a little red spot right there. One, yeah, yeah. Break it
well,
down.
it's very easy. That's Hasidic Williamsburg, right? And they vote very conservatively. And so no matter
Hmm.
what New York City says, they vote conservatively. And so that is their area, and there a lot of Hasidic Jewish people live there, and they vote the way they want. Nobody tells them how to vote. And so regardless of the fact that everyone around them in Williamsburg and this is Greenpoint, and if you zoom out, that's the people around them, right? They don't care. They vote the way they want to vote. But that's not typical. Typically, people, I guess, like-minded people live usually in the same areas, right? So that's why here, if we zoom out, you can also pick out the Hasidic community in Crown Heights, right there. You
Okay.
see that red splotch, that's the Hasidic community in Crown Heights. And then there's all of South Brooklyn. And you can see here, I don't know if people can see, but South Brooklyn voted majority for Trump, right?
Are
This
you
is
are
the
you
heart.
Jewish yourself?
No, I'm not Jewish. No, I'm Catholic. Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
I have
the thing
nothing.
is, the Jews are
Go ahead.
split into like what, three major factions: the
Say,
Orthodox, the Hasidics, and who else? Moderns or something?
yes, I think some of them yeah, I forget the name. Moderate Jew? No, not moderate. I think that there's practicing, there's Orthodox and secular Jew. Yeah, I'll look it up. What
And
the
Hasidics are
opposite?
like their
I
own
can ask
thing.
Google.
Hasidics, I think, are kind of like more, you see like with the big beards, you see them with the kind of like the locks hanging right here, and
Yes,
they
versus
do have like their own separate like little society that they form. They have their own police force sometimes, patrolling their own communities. I think that's more really with the Hasidics more than with the other Jewish groups. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but
right, right. I don't
interesting.
know what there are practicing Jewish people, but that's the
Yeah,
point. The point is that we um should be able to
I do think,
see.
yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
that independent manner of thought does kind of like align more with Republican values, and also, but we know that a lot of actually, I would say maybe I was gonna call them modern Jews or whatever they call them, something like that. I think they're very heavily blue,
Ah, yes,
right?
yeah,
I would say that, yeah.
yeah.
There's another faction of Jews that are very, very blue. Yeah,
Yes. And that I think is what we call the liberals or but it's not
yeah,
just Jewish. It's, let me see, non-Orthodox Jew. What do they call themselves? Traditional? No, there's a name, Reform, Conservative, Reconstruction, Jewish. But the point is that people running for office, I can show it and anyone can do this because those links are, public on the web. Just look for, you I guess, voter results at the block level. If you search for that, you'll probably find there's this one site, Atomizer, that's really good, and it seems to be up to date. And if you, let's say you're running for county committee, or you're running, because actually county committee offices, which people are, the viewers and the people watching in the future probably don't even know what county committee is. So you can describe that. But I just want to say that even county committee elections go on the ballot if there's a contest. If there's no contest, then it doesn't go on the ballot. But that's the
yeah,
same way we elect these so-called delegates to these judicial committees, conventions, whatever they call them. And then also this so-called district leader. That's the way we elect. It's because I remember voting for years and years and years and saying, what is a state committeeman? What is this convention to judicial? I don't even know what it is. It just says vote for six and there's six choices, or vote for one and there's one choice. It's just
How
outrageous.
how long have you been in? This is my first year in county committee, by the way, and I don't think I'm contested, so I'm getting in. Are you contested in your race?
No, so far in 6 years of doing absolutely nothing as a county committee member because the party boss doesn't want any input from real county committee members that are not integrated into the system, right? Are not
Yeah,
mind controlled, right? So they never call any meetings. We're supposed to have a district leader, and that district leader doesn't communicate at all. I mean, in fact, if you talk to the district leader, they're too busy talking about how great they are. And I've never
but
heard
are the district
so.
leaders appointed, or are they voted in, or how can you influence the district leader?
They are voted in. Exactly. It's in the
Okay,
ballot. For decades, I used to vote, and I mean, I've always voted, but I never understood what that meant. I thought they were just ridiculous party or ridiculous form things that did nothing, right? Because I said,
okay,
"What is this?" It gives me no choice. So instead of voting for the no choice, I would just write in no choice. But let me say to
yeah,
the viewers that writing in no choice makes no effect whatsoever, right? You have to be active and try to do something, right? You can't just be angry at the ballot, right? Because the ballot doesn't care. And they don't even count that no choice. They count it as unattributable, right? Because no choice is not a person. So if you are angry, write your own name in, or write, I think if you're angry, run for office, right? And start with the county committee, then the so-called district leader, then these conventions. You can run for all these places because there's less competition there, because there's no money. They don't get paid. In fact, our so-called district leader is
Yeah,
telling us over and over how he doesn't get paid. So what is county committee? Do you want to tell people?
it's the most basic level of control inside the political parties, which actually make a lot of very important decisions, such as the judges. A lot of people say, "Oh, the elected, such a big deal," but the elected cycle in and out, and they're one person amongst many in a chamber that sometimes there's 40, 50 other legislators, just one voice, right? It really helps build a party power, but the judge is one person that's making a precedent-setting decision here, and they don't like talk about it. Another thing that the county committee does is it also determines the party leadership and can determine the priorities of the party. So if you think the party should be working on this or not that, should be focusing on the developers, not actual, and choking on tenants versus the developers. Well, really, this is because the leadership is really bought off by the developers, and I can't say it's necessarily wrong for that. It's really responsible of the people to mobilize and to make sure that their issues are addressed. But a lot of times we've been trained to be helpless, trained to be ignorant, trained to be, disregardful of things that are impacting our own lives so others can benefit. And we've got to really be a part of causing a massive shift in this particular direction. So, county committee is very important for that. And just so you know, one thing that's kind of kept quiet is they installed 1/3 of all elected officials in New York City by something called special elections. We actually had a previous. I've tried to run people for county for several years, and there was a special election before that was held in the Bronx. And on day one, we know that when polls first opened, that's when there's a lot of heavy activity. At a special election site in the Bronx, only 8 people went in. I think about that for like on the first day of voting. These are very easily controllable by people that are kind of in the know about what's going on and vital. So, very excited about our new show coming up where we have a county committee person from the Republican Party, county person from the Democrat Party. We're going to be exchanging notes once again. There's a um, coalition of elites that work together to enforce their, using celebrities and other national media to squash the grassroots. But there is one grassroots movement from the ground and mess with the people that be with you and work with you and not the ones that they give you, and you're going to be all right.
Exactly. And there's some people chatting saying hi. So I don't see how to chat back. So it said Allison has said hi, and Roy, good morning, DJ and Yazo. I guess that must be what I put on my. I'm Ralph too. But yeah, exactly what you said is there are some state assembly people that get voted in with 2,000 votes. This, I think his name escapes me, but it's there on Roosevelt Island in and east side of Manhattan. And literally, Eddie Gibbs, I think it is, he got voted in with
Oh, wow.
2,000 votes. That's like 150,000 eligible voters and 2,000 people voted, and literally zero turnout. So
I think also I have to go look up the graphic, right? There was a graphic on his spending. I think he spent like about $2,000 per voter, some insane amount, like really high.
exactly. And then if you look at the
Per vote.
Yeah, if you look at the contribution, because that's the other part that people, I've set up a website that makes it easy to see these contributions. You can search like a Google search engine and take New York City data and New York City, New York State and New York City data, put it in one place because who in their right mind? I always post on Reddit to get the opinion of the what's it called, the Illuminati or whatever they call themselves, right? And they say, "Oh, I love the cryptic New York State campaign finance search." Like I said, you can't even share the information. You have to literally create a PDF file or a screenshot and share that. And I'm thinking, shouldn't we be able to share this through links to allow others to contribute? And let's say you want to other people to do their own search, right? Imagine if Google was
Yeah.
everything everything you had to share on the internet, you had to do through a PDF file, and nothing was linkable and nothing was really shareable. Imagine that's the world we live in. And I just want to point out that this information is very low quality. If you contribute to a campaign, you literally can write your name any way you want. And that's really the only way we can correlate things. So let's say you're contributing to one campaign and then you're contributing to another, and there's all these limits. You can spell your name different ways, right? And of course that might be fraud, but I see it all over the place, right? In the data, people's names are misspelled. And so, and you might say, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is you can spell your name a different way and give more. And so-called give more, give. I don't know what give means, but you see the problem, right? We have all
Yeah.
this so-called transparency, quote unquote transparency, but there's nobody policing it,
You
right?
know what? Even talking about Gibbs, because I was just looking through some of my messages to try to find some stuff about Gibbs
Yeah.
and find exactly what the signature was. He was actually searched by the FBI.
Oh yeah.
The thing is that we see like even like what's his name, Cuomo, right? And he was removed in shame. His Emmy was stripped from him. He killed people in nursing homes and all this, but he's actually in the lead by double digits for mayor. When he did not leave governor naturally, but there was a lot of reports about money that was floating around the not-for-profit system who are actually
Yes.
part of county committee. And this is what allows, right? If you think about why is Cuomo able to just walk in through double digits? Because the people that are involved through county committee who are part of actually going out and getting petition signatures and stuff like that, that actually vote on a regular basis. Most regular people don't vote, and I get it. But these people, the small little crew of people who are, they're the ones who are determining that. They're not asking regular people about Andrew Cuomo. They're asking people that vote about Andrew Cuomo. That's why I don't think with the regular people that he's in double digit lead.
I asked the
Well,
same question. Yeah, our Brooklyn Democratic Party, or they call themselves Democratic Party, Kings County Democratic Party, endorsed Cuomo. And I asked the question, did they check with the county committee? No, absolutely, because I'm part of the county committee. Nobody checked, right? How did they endorse? My friends who are kind of politically minded, right, and have been here forever, right, said it's because they think he's going to win. They're just picking the winner. They because it's all about influence, and it's basically a gambling. And they want to be with the so-called winner. It had nothing to do with ethics or stance or anything, right? In fact, they probably disagree with him because he wants to limit property tax to 2%, 2% increase. That's one thing Andrew Cuomo did. He
I don't
passed
even
it.
know if it's even as deep as the policy. You know what I mean?
Say
But go
again?
ahead. Yeah, I'll let you.
No, say
I don't
say.
even know if it's as deep as the policy. I just think it's just patronage. I think it's just him going to hook up his friends with into the people that he knows into the not-for-profit industry, getting six-figure salaries. Is it really? You really think it's about policy? I don't think they
No,
really care
it's
about the policy.
absolutely. It's just whatever sound bites. Yes, you're exactly right. These are the dirty secrets of government because basically it's a revolving door between nonprofits and government. And I don't absolve the private sector or the private corporations, but the private corporations and the small businesses actually have a customer. And that customer, if they're not happy, if you treat your customer very badly, if you call their office and they never return or return your call 9 months later and just give you some yes, 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 you might not shop there anymore, right? True, right? The private sector has a real customer and they can go out of business. But these elected people, especially in New York City and New York State, we can't recall them. We have no ability to recall them other than bring charges against them, official misconduct, right? Um, we can't just have a petition. Do you know in California, you just go around and sign a petition just the way you get on the ballot, and you can recall your elected person, because 4 years is a long time, right? And that's why we should have elections every year, or we should make it a one-term limit, right? Because think about the good people would do if they had a one-term limit. They would just be focused on serving the constituency. But instead, what they're in there doing, how can I increase campaign finance money? That's one of their number one agendas, right? Campaign finance money, that's your tax dollars going for their campaigns, for these representatives to tell you how great they are. It should be the exact opposite. It should be the community comes together and agrees on its values, right? And then they hire some so-called executive to execute them. And if there's a vote of no confidence, or the board or the community or the civic organizations say this is not working out, they're removed, because they see, we've turned everything on its head. It used to be that, or I think it should be that, the representatives serve the community, but instead it's the opposite. We have to uh, I literally hear people saying, "Oh, but that's not the right time to write to them. That there's only a certain window of time that you can talk about this." And I'm thinking, "What?" I'll pause there because I could go on forever, but it's just not right, right? These constituents. I mean, we are the constituency, and they are the representatives that work for the constituency, and
You know, yeah.
it's not the
You know, I
case.
feel what you're saying, yeah. Um, and the recall, I think, would be a good tool. However, there's a lot of different ways around it that they already employ. But we need to have some more checks and measures. Once again, I think that the real overall, the only protection is to get more people involved personally, because there's always we'll try to fix this system, then they'll find another way around it. We know, for example, right, that Elise Stefanik, right, not saying that I'm 100% for or against her, but we know that Hochul was trying to delay, right, the special election to replace her, because they want to force it into the actual general election, because they're playing games. So even though certain rules are on the books, they'll start to twist them, or they'll start to reinterpret them at convenient times. A lot of times, people that we know that are coming up in the game, such as Sandra Ung, right? I think she just was called out for something in Flushing. She's actually, I think, formerly like a staff member from Grace Mang's office. And a lot of there's this kind of like interchange, and there's kind of like insiders, people that were former chiefs of staff. They're the ones who get brought up in the system. So it's not really like new people are really entering the fold. It's these kinds of dynasties, kinds of forms, and this kind of sick kind of family thing. Like if you have sperm relations, like Andrew Cuomo has this name recognition. He rolled back. He's actually destroyed a lot of the legacy of his father, right? His father, Mark Cuomo, instituted something called the Disabilities Advocate, and it was actually gotten rid of under Andrew Cuomo. They try to pull some marketing scam on us, just the way that, like, Timberlands used to be like, more quality. Then they shift the productions to cheaper materials. This is the corporate thing. They sell you a sequel. They sell you, right. They hope you're not paying attention. They want you to just put you in the seats, and it's disrespectful to the consumer.
Absolutely. Yes, you're exactly right. You said The Office, because that's a couple things you've said is so true. Most of these offices are not even elected by the people. The people become incumbents because they know the game. And what they do is they resign before the election. Then the party picks the replacement, right? And that's not elected.
Hmm.
And then that person is the incumbent. So
Yeah.
they were never elected. And
And
so
as an incumbent, they've already like set up the relationships. They've proved to industry that they're going to take care of them. They've done a couple backdoor deals, so everything is status quo, business as usual, and they know there's going to be no
exactly,
disruption.
it's exactly as you said. They work in the office, so that already tells you that they've been indoctrinated, right? And they're
Yeah.
highly dependent on the system because their entire life depends on the system, right? It just is like the Matrix. It's all in the system. Their life depends on the system, right? And we need people from outside the system, right? And what we mean by the system is the political machine. And the word machine should be used more, because I think that really, really describes the situation. Is The machine is not one individual. It's the force. It's the remnants of Vito Lopez and the remnants of Clarence Norman. And as we spoke at a different live stream, the court case, the U.S. Supreme Court case with Margarita Lopez Torres versus the New York City Board of Elections, or the New York State Board of Elections, it's probably the New York State. It goes on, and it ends up in the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, we can't stop the party bosses from acting like party bosses. In fact, the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, protects party bosses, right? It takes you and I and the general people and people that are listening and will listen in the future to wake up and look at the Kings County Democrat Party and serve as county committee and serve as district leader and serve as and see what is being done in your name. And in your name, it's disgraceful what's happening. And I'll pause.
All right. So one of the things I really like about some of the stuff that you're working on is your technical background and really understanding of, like, like that map system that you built, or to really assemble the voter databases and stuff like that, so that people can be more effective. Now the thing is that people are definitively not taught this stuff, because that's like cutting your own throat, right? People want to. There's a lot of times people who are going to learn this information are not people who necessarily have your best interest in mind, but they want to use it for their own interest, which is fair. So the thing is that nowadays we know that AI will probably be entrusted with education. Will probably, AI is actually doing a better job on radiology, right? You probably heard about that. People are looking at because the AI is better at pattern recognition. So people are looking at pictures. Doctors are looking at pictures. Sometimes they're tired at the end of the day, and also just so doctors have been shown to surgeries go up before it's time for them to leave, because instead of waiting around, they said we're just going to hack into this person and then we're going to go home. There's some unfortunate realities what happened there. So what extent do you think that AI is going to be involved in terms of making government decisions? Do you think at some point, right, people don't trust each other, right? You know that we can't trust each other. So at what
I
point do you
already
think, yeah,
I already use AI. AI is just statistics because I come from a computer background, right? And what is it? People say, "Oh, AI, it's thinking." No, it's just looking at the history and statistically comparing previous results, which work because we have a history. Let's take medicine, for example. AI or statistics, machine learning, or it's really statistics. We should just call it what it is, statistics. It looks at a gigantic sample of previous X-rays or previous MRIs or whatever it is, right? And it knows the history of those MRIs, whether the person had cancer or not, right? Or had whatever it is, lung condition, and it
yeah,
can compare that MRI to the current MRI. So all it is a training set of data, right? And it knows the result of the training set, right? Because that's how you train an AI model. And now they have different things where it learns itself. But in the beginning, it was just you gave it input, and then you allowed it to create its neural networks and come up with a statistical model for the other input, right? So now if you give a new MRI or an X-ray that matches almost exactly something in the data set, right? Something in the training data set, it's going to look in the training data set and say, holy smokes, I already know the result for this type of MRI scan, right? This exact one. And it'll statistically say that 96% this person has cancer, or 96% this person doesn't have cancer. But humans are not as good at that as computers, right? Computers are very good at routine lookup. They can look up millions, billions. That's why they can beat us at chess,
yeah.
right? Because they're very
You know,
good at that.
also, computers are much more thorough. The thing is that I worked in several emergency rooms. I worked for several doctors, including a pulmonologist, who was Harvard trained, another one who was a neurologist. And the thing is that you'll notice that a lot of the doctors, when they come in, they'll just give you a diagnosis very quickly because they're pressured to do so by the insurance company. But the thing is that they get so many patients who come in with one diagnosis after that, another diagnosis, they could say flu, right? There's a flu going around. Oh, you got flu, you got flu, you got flu, you got flu. But oh my goodness, right? They might miss, oh, that's tuberculosis, right? Like, how long are they even doing the examination? A lot of times it's the nurse doing the examination. So the thing is that when I was at the hospital emergency, I was a scribe trying to learn the business. So I would look certain things up, and then some of the unfortunately, there's a lot of ego involved too, right? The thing is that the doctors and the doctors, PAs, were trying to show off the knowledge to each other. So I would look things up and I would mention something like, oh, and then I actually, by the time I left the emergency room, people were starting to look things up more. So that was cool. But a computer will not miss these things due to ego, time constraints, being tired, all these. And honestly, just so you know, there's a lot of kind of, they call it the hidden curriculum, where doctors are pressured to, the drug company has a deal with the emergency room, just the way, like pizza places only sell Coke or Pepsi or stadiums. These deals are also being cut in hospitals, which they're not talking about. And behind the
Wow.
scenes, yeah, think about it, right? But are they going to advertise that? No, they're not. So certain
Right.
drugs just aren't available in the emergency room because, or you got to get the off brand, or you got to get this other. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah, the best Dr. McDougall, this guy on YouTube who's been around for a long, long time, said the the one trait of healthy people, you know what is the common trait of healthy people? The reason,
They
well,
don't see a
in
doctor.
general.
What is it?
What was it? What was it?
They don't see a doctor.
Exactly. That was exact. They don't
Yeah,
interact with the hospital system. They don't interact. I mean, because it'll actually make you ill. Right? So yeah, he
doctors.
said, well, it is kind of um, you know, together because they're healthy, so they probably don't need to go to the doctor. But he's saying that that's one of the reasons they are healthy because they stayed away from because the medical system and the drug system can make you unhealthy, right? And literally, I hear
Absolutely.
people talk like that. I got to get my meds, my scripts. I'm thinking, what are you even talking about? What are scripts and meds, and what are they? The more you see, that's the processed food industry, right? They want you to go
Mhm.
from horrid processed foods to the medical industry, in and out, in and out, in and out, right? The cause of diabetes. The most recent one, I'll just end with this one, is acrylamides. I did not realize that all baked goods, all cookies, all browned, all toast is is has acrylamides. And the more you brown it, the more it's cooked above 250 degrees Fahrenheit or 120 Celsius, the more acrylamides you're uh, creating in your starch and amino acid food, right? So it's cookies are filled with acrylamides, baked goods. I mean, that's shocking to me, right? And acrylamides cause cancer. So it's a vicious circle, right? Because who supposedly cures cancer? The medical industry, right? So they have an incentive to increase cancers, right? Because their cancer drug doesn't
It's
isn't
a
very
it's a
valuable.
we could dive more down that rabbit hole if you want to.
But I
Okay,
just
so
want to mention it. Yeah,
I'll go
sure.
slightly down, right? The thing is that when we eat like one type of substance, right, that's maybe it doesn't have any acrylamides, right, or sugars that are not like heated, right? When you eat bread, right, you know that it's cooked, so the crust tastes different, right? It may be a little bit sweeter because it's browner, and we know that there's this caramelization process where things turn brown. Why does it taste more satisfying for us when they have slight burnt on it? Because the thing is that, right, our bodies, like sometimes deer will actually lick the ground or eat dirt, right, or things like that, right? Because it knows it's missing certain nutrients like sodium, right, or it could be other trace minerals like nickel,
Yep.
potassium, and sometimes people will start to develop these weird cravings. And also, if you think about it, if you eat like certain foods, like maybe like ice cream, right, it's very satisfying because you're getting carbs and fats, and you're getting a lot of like other things at the same time. So it's satisfying like multiple levels. That's why when certain foods are calorie dense, or right, you eat like a salad, you might feel like nourished in a certain way that you don't when you just eat like maybe some cheap starches. But um, so when we take a look at the acclimatization process, right, or things like that, our body gets more of a sense of being fulfilled on multiple levels at the same time. So that's why it tastes more rich for us, and it tastes more. We have a better mouthfeel, right? Because our bodies sense that we're getting more nutrients at the same time, even if it's a trick, right? Even if it's just the starch processed in different ways, or maybe more oxidized in some ways, our body tastes we're getting different things at the same time, and it says this
Exactly.
is good or more fulfilling. So
Absolutely.
once
Yeah,
again, we
it's
got to
the
have everything in a balance. Some things are like forever chemicals, like PFAS, going to be like problematic for a long time, right? Regardless, right? But some of these things are actually magnified by industry, right? In order for us to try to sell us another package service. So it's very hard to um, really, in the end, you need to understand the medicine and your body yourself, and do your own experimentation, and go out and instead of following right other because there's a lot of very convincing stuff out there, and the
right.
trick is that part of it's true, but there's also missing things, and this lack of information can be very dangerous. Make sense?
Absolutely. It's called the Maillard reaction, this browning, and it is a
Yeah,
bit bizarre
Maynard
that
reaction, I think.
the thing that makes the thing taste better, like toast tastes better, is also the thing that creates these side effect acrylamides. And people should look that up themselves, make their own decision. But yeah, we don't want to do too much of a tangent. But health and politics are intertwined. You can't be a good civic citizen and a civic organization without any health, right? If you're in bad health. So, and that's what I see as the common thread in these representatives. A lot of them, or some of them, have very bad health. But I guess it's a dirty game. And the one thing I was going to mention in addition is sugar. Sugar, you were saying starch and stuff, but the sugar, ice cream has a lot of sugar, right? And that's a key. The fat and the sugar together, and the coldness, and you're right. A baby, once you give it that, it won't go back to the unsweetened yogurt, right? Yeah, we had our son had uh, some of that, and then you put the unsweetened yogurt in his mouth, and he just spits it back
No,
out.
it's not
What
as
is
good.
that?
Yeah, this what is this crap? Yeah, what is this? The other one had this other stuff in it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Once they get used to that, but if you, so I've eliminated all sugar because I don't, I know that I can be addicted to sugar, so I just eliminate all sugar, and I don't miss it. I focus on vegetables and the last point is there are no essential carbohydrates. We can live our entire life and not eat a single carbohydrate. We the body needs proteins and it needs fat, but it can produce carbohydrates. So anyway, we've
I
gone
also
on.
want to also just one thing I'm going to mention on that too is exercise is very important. If you actually study biochemistry, there's something called the Krebs cycle. You guys could look that up. If you are not really, and also fasting is also kind of good too. The thing is that you need to actually exercise those different chemical pathways of the Krebs cycle. And if you're always getting your nutrients from one way and you never have to like use certain parts of your metabolism or your body, it's not good. Your body was meant to go through certain periods of hardship and
Stress.
starvation, and it built itself that way. And if you never give it that, you know, it's like growing a plant without any wind, right? It's going to be very wilty. It's not going to have any strength in the stem because it never got that appropriate stimulation. So it's right. And once again, it's hard to sell people effort versus selling them a food. So there's a lot of marketing, but once again, by monitoring your own performance, behavior, stuff like that, you're going to learn what's right for you.
Absolutely. I want to add some
You're a
points.
marathon runner, so you know your body.
Exactly right, and I bike more now, and I walk because I'm getting older. But exercise is very important. Sleep is very important. I didn't realize sleep is even more important than exercise. If you don't get proper sleep, your body can never heal. It can never grow. It can never. Uh, uh, and lack of sleep causes cancer. From what I see, but people should do their own research. Fasting is so important. It's exactly what you said. The medical industry cannot sell fasting, right? They can't. A doctor says, look, just fast fast for a week, and that'll cost $6,000, $10,000.
That's what the
You know,
sales,
every day
man.
you fast, that's $10,000 to me, right? I mean, it first of all, fasting costs nothing. It's zero, nothing, and then you can exercise more and walk and sleep more, right? Instead of focused on partying and day and yeah, because once people start getting into this party mode, then the next thing their friends are drunks or their friends are alcoholics, and then I'd say you can always tell someone by their friends. Look at their friends, and
They love to sell overconsumption. This is
say
right. They
again.
make more money. They want to be unnaturally wealthy, so that it convince you that you need an unnatural amount of their products. No, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's the conspicuous consumption. Conspicuously, like, I get something, I'm very quiet. I just tell my family we need something like solar panels or something, right? I share with my
Yeah.
family. I don't broadcast it to the world. Who cares? Like, but these people, they gotta go around in their brand new whatever, and we literally have people on the block that literally lost their house because they said their car was more important than their house. Wow. And like, the
Well,
cars are.
everybody has their priorities. That's okay. Some people
Say
like
again.
that. Yeah, I know some people
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
I know some people like that, so that's okay. I'm okay with it.
Right. Of course, they can do whatever they want,
I'm not
but
really. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not a long-term good thing to invest in a car instead of a house. Houses appreciate, cars depreciate. But and then you also said, see, I had something I asked my family, and I said, what are the most important things in life, right? What can you not do without? You'll die if you can't breathe air, fresh air, good air, in a few minutes. So I think that's the environment and air are very important, right? But the next thing is water. You need good water. You'll die in a few days if you don't have water, right? And in fact, that's how we flush our system, through water. The liver can't work without water. The pancreas can't work without water. And then what's the next thing? Is sleep. I think sleep and nutrition. Sleep is more important than nutrition because you'll die
So,
eventually if you don't sleep.
just want one thing that I also want to say at this point is that a lot of people say that knowledge is power, but I want to say that knowledge without the power to leverage that knowledge is meaningless, right? That's what's actually I see you wearing the Make America Healthy Again hat. And just so you
Yeah.
know, there are some things about RFK that I'm very alarmed by, but there are some things that I like. And some of them
Yeah.
are like cleaning up the water supply. We know that we have like pharmaceuticals in the water and this other kind of thing. Um, what so let's go back to talking about power, right? We're trying to we're going down the knowledge route of exchanging knowledge, which is cool. But actually, we know that we have the independent stuff just came out. I think that you had talked about you like Jim Walden. I've been trying to reach out to him. Actually, just so you know, I actually got hired to help Mayor Adams get petition signatures, but the pay's kind of low. So I'm not really like that thrilled about it because honestly, they if you think about it, right? If you think about if you're getting petition signatures, you're getting paid $25 an hour. It sounds like a decent amount, right? But if you
But
think
it's
about it, that's $50,000 a year. You know what I mean? That's really an entry level job. So what kind of people are you gonna like? $25 is not bad, but those are people that are not working regular jobs. Those are people that are, either like actors trying to do something else, or you know, personal
waitresses.
trainers, or exactly waitresses, right? People, right? So it's and once again, these are candidates paying these wages. It's not a good sign for how they care about the little people in general. So I think that you had talked about Jim Walden though, as someone who is interesting. I know that he's kind of like down with the, making America healthy again. Any interesting news coming up about that stuff?
Well, thank you for it. I only put this hat on because my hair is all over the place, so it's not an I'm not. It's not a
I
position
do
or
that too.
anything. Yeah, but I do think the part about healthy makes sense. This is not advocating for Robert F. Kennedy. It's just I went to an Albany trip and they gave out these hats, so it has nothing to do with me. It's just I
I
think
was on that
health.
trip.
Say again.
I was there.
Oh, you were up at there was well. There's many Albany trips, so it might have been a different one. But oh, you
That
were
was
there.
I think it was that was the one where the Robert Brooks people were there at the same one. Is that the one?
There was a lot of protesting about somebody in jail. Is that who Robert Brooks is? I
Robert
don't know.
Brooks. Yeah, that was the one. I got
It
the
was the
same
day.
hat.
It was the
Yeah,
day. It was the day of the state
I
of the
was there.
state.
I was there
Yeah,
too.
and you know who we
Okay,
did
cool.
not
That, yeah.
see? We walked every office. You know who we did not see? A single
Yeah.
representative. 'Cause we're in
Oh no,
right where their office
they
is,
passed
and
by. They passed by.
they did they. If you
I saw.
wait, I
I
guess.
saw several of them.
Okay, you saw a few of them, but my point is, we went to the offices. Nobody was in their
Oh, the
office,
officers.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
of
were
course.
because they were all going to attend the meeting of Hochul's state of the speech state of the state union. That's why we was
Absolutely
there.
so.
So they were all going to the meeting.
Oh, but we were there hours and hours and hours and hours earlier, so, you would think
Okay.
that the offices were
Yeah.
closed, and literally, we were giving letters to them, and you know how we interacted with our representative? They have a little plastic thing outside the door, and you just drop the letter in the plastic thing, and that's it. That's your interaction, and you take a picture with the plastic thing, and that's how you get feedback from your representative. I did see one of my representative, but he ran and hid behind a door and locked it, and then locked another door, and so he disappeared in his high waters.
Sometimes you can make appointments or go in person, but a lot of times they just don't respond. So that's the
Yes, that's
problem, right? So you have to like kind of chase them down, which is annoying, but you know,
right. But this
I
goes
get it
back.
from their end too. But yeah.
Exactly, but that goes back full circle to what I said is who's serving who? That's the question. Who like are these representatives serving us? I think a one-term limit would eliminate this and body cams on all the staff and all the representatives. Because if you look at the Blagojevich or whatever his name is in Illinois, you would never know the selling of the presidential or the Senate seat. You would never know unless you recorded all his conversations. He's got to have a body cam on him because how is the general public going to know? Do we need the FBI tracing every single so-called representative and chief of staff in office? That's impossible. We don't have a million FBI agents dedicated to every. We just have to public, just like you said with AI. Let's publish all that information. Have AI tools filtering out for scams and fraud and official misconduct and that I think the quality of the people will go up instead of down, right? Because these people know. I mean, first of all, there'll be a lot that will not do it at all because it's ridiculous. But then there'll be a few that are transparent and don't mind serving for. And after a year, they're so exhausted, they're so they've served the constituency so much that they want to resign. It's not but that's the opposite here. We have some people that are in there for 60 years. 60 years, and they never wanna leave because they say, "Hey, I don't have to do anything. Nobody I'm accountable to nobody, right? All I have to do is put up posters every 4 years or every 2 years and, uh, and make sure that the people that vote are happy and give out the patronage and don't, um, wake up the rest of the public, keep them asleep, and I can ride out 40, 50, 60 years and don't and I get offices in Albany. I get office in Brooklyn or wherever, New York City. I get to hire staff. I get to use campaign finance money. I get to uh, tell everyone how great I am. And that's what's happening. Instead, it should be they serve the constituency, right? And so one term limit, resign to run, and resign to run. Do you know that? Because some states have a resign
I
to
never.
run.
Oh, really? Okay.
That means
That
that they
sounds. Yeah, that makes sense because there's a lot of candidates who actually don't resign to run, and sometimes they do. And I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of the breakdown. Do you know which ones are probably like the more popular ones, or which ones have been more? Yeah,
yeah, the
I
states
do know
that have
sometimes they do that. I just didn't know which states was particularly doing that. Yeah,
yeah, I think it's
interesting.
the so-called red states resign to run states. I think it's like our friend Texas, places like that, resign to run law, Ballotopedia. Yeah, so we can even ask Google what the Arizona, Florida, of course, Georgia. Georgia has it. That's good. Hawaii. But New York State, Texas, all these, yeah, there's not that many. But it's completely logical, right? Why should someone, let's say
I have my
you say again?
I'll tell you that I do have some reservations about it. Not saying it's all bad, not saying it's all good, but as in terms of just my experience, the thing is that the term limits. Remember, I told you there's some ways around it, right? Like you can have your chiefs of staff take over the position, and in a machine where you have a hierarchy, where you have people like down the line or machine candidates, like we also know here in New York City, a lot of the city council members also switch out to assembly, switch out to. So even if there's a term limit on that office, they'll play like the switcheroo game, and
Right.
they can bounce back and forth, and they can also switch in and out of government positions and party leadership positions, which are like, and then also into contracted positions. Now, the thing is that also, when you have a certain level of complexity, a machine or people working together, right, have more of an ability to handle that type of complexity. That's why a lot of people say they think ranked choice voting is a good thing, but I'll say that ranked choice voting actually is also manipulated by political party leadership who have more resources to understand how the game works and can play, right? Who have more resources and some information and people, district leaders who know certain communities and can deliver votes for certain electoral districts and certain mechanisms. So I think sometimes it's good, but I'm very hesitant to say it's always good, and I could see reasons for it. Now, the reason, the places where I think I have the most positive about it, and probably people might not be, they shouldn't be happy to hear this, right? I do see reasons for term limits as well, right? I do see some problems with, like, Nancy Pelosi being there for a long time. We can see there's problems, right? Especially when people no longer are doing their job and are being protected. It's not just really, honestly, to tell you the truth, the problem isn't Nancy Pelosi. It's all the people around her who see that she's making money on these stock deals and are doing nothing. All the people who see that she's engaged in buying bullshit ice cream, bullshit, and not calling her out because, I mean, she couldn't, if she was, there's crazy people everywhere. Not saying that she's all bad, right? But it's a whole team around them that makes it possible. So this, once again, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And I like to focus more on who's in my circle, and I know whether I would trust them for another term. And then in the end, I'm going to make that decision. But
Right.
usually not. And I see it used in a lot of problematic ways. So I get what you're saying too. So
Right. I'm not advocating any position. I'm just throwing it out there that New York State doesn't have it. Yeah, because
okay,
I think
I actually
most
didn't say the part that I was resisting saying. Here's the okay. So there's a group called a lot of people, by the way, this fight oligarchy, thing that's going out there right now. Um, so there's this thing called Citizens United, which I think that Bernie and AOC are trying to revive. I've been a part of Wolfpack. That organization is a mess. It's no good. There's another group called Common Cause, and there's another group called Move to Amend. These are all groups that are trying to fight Citizens United. Now, to tell you the truth, Move to Amend's direct. All these organizations have deep problems with their own levels of accountability and transparency. So I'm telling you right now, one of the groups that's closest, not work on Citizens United, but close on actually forcing an amendment, is this group called Convention of States, and one of their charter ideas is having term limits. And they're already like over 2/3, I think, of the way to actually provoke an actual constitutional amendment, which is fantastic. I think they're like 19, 20 states right now, and Wolfpack has only 4. They went down from 5 to 4. Wolfpack is losing. Yeah. So if you want to find other people to coalition with, I think Convention of States is very strong on this topic, and you should get to know them.
yeah. So you're saying
Yeah.
Wolfpack? I'm searching right now. Wolfpack states.
Wolfpack is
What is
disgusting.
term limits?
No, Wolfpack is not about that. Wolfpack is about ending Citizens United, but they're trying to provoke a constitutional amendment. So is Common Cause. I think constitutional amendment is one of the most powerful things you can do, as in terms of like legislatively. So a lot of times, right, the reason why I was talking about it is because in the news you see this stop oligarchy thing. you see Bernie Sanders talking about how the oligarchs and really that Citizens is United and PAC money and all this other kind of thing. But anything can be good or bad.
Right.
A
So
weapon isn't really out there. They say guns don't kill people, people kill people, and there's some truth in that, right? I do think that New York City does benefit from gun was it gun restrictions, because I think if there was a lot more guns around, I think a lot more people would get hurt. So I
right.
do think
So
I think gun control has to make some sense in some instances. I'm not saying it's
so go
always right or always wrong.
I agree. So we started at Resign to Run, and I'm just pointing out that it does not even exist. It's not even in the thought process of New York. It's not in the news. Because I think going full circle, you talked about Cuomo. Cuomo's control is being in the news. He actually likes being called a disgraced governor because it gets him in the news. Yeah, how often do you see Jim Walden in the news? Very little, right?
I have to ask you. You're a Democrat, right? I've been really wanting to ask the Democrat. Thank God I have one on. Yeah. Why
Thank you.
is how okay? Do you go to your Democratic club?
Actually, I've contacted many clubs. I help with the New Kings Democrat, which they are a
Oh,
political
they're pretty
club.
big.
Say
They're pretty
again?
big. They're
Yeah,
pretty big.
and that's how I
Actually, they're
get.
huge.
Say again? Yeah, that's how I
They're huge.
get. Uh, uh, that's how I get in as county committee. Is there's an associated website called Rep Your Block, I think it's called, and
Yes. Yep.
there you sign up there, and they do all the paperwork. Because the first year I did it, I did all the paperwork myself. I printed the petitions, I got the signatures, I submitted it to the Board of Elections. But I found in the New York City one, the Manhattan one, because uh, everything I see don't deal with the Brooklyn one, but the New York City one, I submitted it there, and the people behind the desk say, "Oh, oh, don't you like?" And I'm thinking, it's like they can't talk to you because I think legally they can't talk to you, but I
They're
must have
not
been
even
missing.
allowed.
Say again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're not even allowed to. Yeah,
Right. But
by
these are,
law.
but,
Yeah.
but one honest guy in the office started making some
Yeah.
signals. He was like,
Yeah.
"Yep, aren't you miss?"
You started
And
looking
so,
at the things like this, and
yeah,
you're
so
like,
what?
maybe something's missing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was one of the people like us, like $25 an hour guy that just hired for the day, and he knows the routine. And I'm not sitting in there in the Board of Elections for hours just trying to figure out the rules, right? Because I don't even know that the person coming in knows the rules. So I just go in, I submit my papers. There's only like 2 or 3 of them, right? Because county committee, you only need like 20 signatures, right? And then he does something that I'm saying, what does that mean? And then finally, some guy comes out of the back and says, okay, and I just go. And I said, I didn't have any clue as to whether it worked or not. They give no feedback whatsoever, and that is a very bizarre system that you can legally say you cannot help the public, right? We should have, if that's the case, then there should be some place, because these elections are where
But
the public
what happens if
meets
they
with
say
government.
something wrong? There's a lawsuit, definitely 100%. You know what I mean?
But my point is, we should have some other nonpartisan group able to help without giving legal advice. They basically the internet, right? They publish things on the internet. Are you saying that I can sue them for things they put on the internet? I I don't know. I think we can't be afraid of suing. Everyone can't be afraid of suing everything because we have an infinite sink of lawsuits forever and ever and ever. It's like the Big Bang.
So,
So,
yeah. So
but my
shout out to New
experience,
Kings Democrats right quick. But we really need more groups like that, right? That are helping, like working with the community, right? Not saying they're all good or all bad, but on this project, I think that's a good project, and I think the fact that they're helping people with paperwork. If you're watching, you should start your own club, right? Within your own little community on your block, right? Get your people, help them. We can help you, right? Start joining the county committee, and join a grassroots movement to affect real change.
that's what I've said over and over again. But the general public, who, especially the ones that work in education or working for the city or working in nonprofits, in the back of their mind, they have a little bit of fear of that, because if they're involved in a political club and it counters the the major power in Brooklyn, or it questions
Okay,
that,
I wanted to ask you.
that's
Here's
going to be
I
a
want to ask you
problem.
for another favor because the thing is that I just want to shout out. By the way, please join check out djalf7.com. Now the thing is that I think that on my event calendar, I think I also put it on my Facebook page. There's an upcoming you know, New York City, the largest expenditure that they have, more than police, fire, and prisons combined, is they spend it on childhood education. So
Absolutely.
actually, yeah, it's a huge money suck right there. So
It's $35 billion,
um,
yeah, or
yeah,
more.
it's insane. So the thing is that I think on May 17th, I think I gotta take a look at the date again. I'm looking for right now. Oh, let me look at the flyer here. Do I put the date here? Oh, May 18th, Sunday, May 18th. Oh my goodness, gotta make that bigger. I'm
Yeah,
actually having a town hall on childhood education, and we're also at 11 o'clock. We're having a discussion on discrimination against Jews and Asian Americans in education, and then at noon, we're going to have an open town hall with candidates on childhood education. So
wow.
I'd like to see. I think I have Steve Chan who agreed to be a part of this, and I'd like to. You think that you could maybe convince some Democrats to be a part of this, or maybe the club could be a co-organizer?
Well, I would love that, but I have no sway or power in any of these clubs. But I would attend. Is it online or in person?
It's going to
Both.
be at Betzalel Gallery at 567 Empire Boulevard in Brooklyn, New York City. I think that's in Williamsburg. Talking about right, which we just saw. So we're
Empire
going to be right there.
Boulevard is closer. It's the Lefferts Garden area, I believe. It's off of Prospect Park, so that's not Williamsburg. If it's Empire Boulevard, yeah.
Okay,
But
you
anyway,
know, I don't know, but yeah,
yeah, it's a little bit more mid Brooklyn. But I would attend. But I encourage to you and I both to, because they have a Slack group, and I'm constantly getting Slack messages from the New Kings Democrats. So it's open. We can join their Slack group. My opinion is I present all the information about spending, make it shareable, and they, even though they are the insurgent group, they don't want too much, they don't wanna ruffle feathers too much, right? So if you come
wait a
in and
minute,
you,
wait a minute. Slack, if I understand, if you remember
it's
Slack,
my
it
opinion,
used to be
okay.
very popular, but
Say
Slack
again?
has, I know Newton's Democrat Slack, right? I've used Slack before, and the thing is that Slack you can only get like 10,000 messages or something, and then you run out, and then you have to pay for every message. Now, New
They
Kings
probably
Democrat
pay.
has been around for a while, and they're pretty big. Haven't they run out of messages already,
They
or
probably
do they
pay
keep
for it.
moving to Slack? They pay
I'm
for
not,
it.
yeah, they probably pay for it, and it's
That's a
probably
lot
public
to pay.
knowledge. We can, yeah, we can look and see if they pay for it. I mean,
I
but
don't gotta pay for it. You know, what I mean, I think it's $8 each or something. It's a lot of money.
exactly, right, right. Yeah, I always wondered Slack's model, but we can
They
look and
got that
see
much
because,
money. Damn.
yeah, yeah, if you
I'm
look up
surprised they're still on Slack, and maybe they're rotating the Slack to new ones.
New Kings Democrats gets a lot of donations, right? If you sort, I can send you the link.
Okay.
I just searched on New Kings Democrat and, oh no, the Democratic Committee, sorry, New Kings Democrats.
Yeah, shoot me the Slack link. Maybe I'll try to advertise and see if people are going to be part of it. I will see. I think
I can,
honestly that Democrat leadership like sends and tells people not to mess with me. Like I've literally been like booked for stuff, and then people call me back and then they cancel.
exactly.
Especially anything related to Democrat leadership.
That's the unseen part of it, right? Like you and I talking here, they can't stop that, but they can stop intertwined clubs
Taking off
and
the Slack. We'll see how long I live on the Slack. I have a very high
exactly,
possibility of being kicked off the Slack. We'll see. I'm not gonna
right.
say nothing bad. You're gonna see, and
Well,
people are just gonna get rid of me.
Yeah, I'm surprised I was not kicked off because I posted real links to spending, and they didn't kick me off yet. I'm still there, and I'm texting you the link. But if you want, I'll email you
Will they
also.
know that you're the one who invited me? Do they
Say
have that
again.
information? Will they
Say
know
again.
that you invited me?
Well, I
Will they
don't
know
think
that
I'm
you invited
allowed.
me to the class?
I don't think I'm allowed to invite. I'm not an admin. I
Oh,
mean,
you're
is
not?
there a way? Yeah, I'm not an admin. Let
Maybe
me
if I
see
go
if
to
I
the
can
website,
add
I
a
can
chat.
sign up somehow.
Say again. Say.
Maybe I can. A lot of times people put like on the website like how to join the Slack. So
Oh, yes, that's right. We can look right now. I'm gonna go to Ralph Yazzo Live and
don't
see
worry
if
about it.
I
I don't
can.
have like a high hope. But also, if you have any other groups that you think might be relevant for the childhood education, I should also contact maybe some of these charter schools and see if they'd be willing to sponsor it. I'm also potentially looking for space for a cool venue. The venue is cool, actually. I'm okay with the venue as it is.
So, oh, I see there is a live chat here. So let me just see if I'm allowed to
You know,
join.
also, I think that the primary and election day, I'm actually trying to get venues for to have like events just before the election.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking and I don't see a way to check. Can you check? Oh, I do see a few people chatted. I just text you the, but how come I can't chat? It says live, join the to
That's not
interact.
what you text me.
It says
That's for the Slack.
open panel.
Yeah, don't.
Open.
I'll hand the Slack off. I see Title Force. Oh, this is no, this is your site. Yeah,
Oh, no, that's just the money going in. If you look at that link, that's the money going
that's a lot of
into.
money.
Yeah, if I sorted
Damn.
by amount descending, and you can see, and these are easily linkable as opposed to here. Let me just put the link here in case anybody wants it, right? And then what it's showing is the money that's going into these groups, and those are small players. They're very small. In if you remove the search, you'll see billions and billions of dollars are going into these campaigns. Yeah, and donations. So you ask, how do they pay for Slack? I see
Well,
about.
they may be straw donors. You know about straw donors?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, we're
They may be straw
we're
donor
going.
situation.
Yeah, we have so many topics. I think we should go in depth in the next videos on some of these topics because it is really scary what's happening. Yeah, straw donor is simply a fake donor because of the way New York City taxpayers magnify other any contribution of $250. The campaign gets 10 times that amount. Well, if you get 10 times the amount, you can give back the $250, right? Basically, somebody gives straw donor is exactly somebody gives a lot of money and you break it up into 250 chunks and you put it under other people's names. That way, all of it is matched instead of $10,000 is only matched the first 250, right? What matching
Yeah.
means is your taxpayer money. The people out there should know that. Have you asked yourself, have you ever contributed to any campaign? And if the answer is no, then you're incorrect because you've contributed 10 times the amount of the small donor because you're a
There's a
taxpayer.
lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons for them to do this. Not only that, but sometimes the right to qualify for matching funds, they'll say they want like certain number of donations, not just the pure number amount, not just the dollar amount, but number of donations also to qualify to get in certain debates. Sometimes they'll use these numbers to say, you know, you have X amount of donations, and X like being another amount being a total amount of donations. So they'll set these kind of criteria. So um,
Ah,
there's multiple
That's
reasons why they do
exactly
this. Yeah.
that's exactly right. Now I have to say you're exactly. Oh yes, some. I don't know if I can edit.
You
Can
know
you
William
edit
Smith?
your? Yeah, the amount of
I
New
think he's
Kings
a district
Democrats.
leader, and he got in
So
trouble for straw donoring to Adams.
yes, exactly. That 700. Oh, I think I missed typed it. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. So straw donors is a big problem. I think it's a one at the end. Yeah. So let me just do this right. This is the money
That's
going
why you
in.
make. That's why like I'm so doubtful of rules because you make a rule and then they just find a way around it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're exactly right. But we gotta start with awareness, right? We literally have zero awareness. Do you know that in California they can actually have direct ballot initiatives? Do you know what that means? That means that you, just the way you get on to the county committee, you go around and just get petitions. There's rules in California and Western states that say you get so many signatures and you are able to put an initiative on the ballot. New York
Yeah,
City, New York State, New York City, the state is called the Empire State. Empire? You know what empire means, right? We are the subjects
yeah,
of the empire, right? Well, I think they meant that they're going to empire the whole world, but in my opinion, they're empiring us, right? And we are the
yeah.
subjects, and we are not intelligent enough to put ballot, questions on the ballot. Of course not. We have to go through, and it goes back to what you said. These so-called representatives have been indoctrinated, right? They know what's the third rail of politics and they know they're bound. I literally helped at a nonprofit and the place was poisoning the poor workers in the kitchen, right? They had a oven with 12 pilot lights that were all burning incorrectly, you just spewing carbon monoxide into the poor workers' lungs. And you know what they told me? They said, "It's not your place to point things like that out." I'm saying, "It's not my place? Uh, what do you mean by that?" It says, "Thank you, goodbye." Like, and you know who fought me the most in the place? Do you know who it was? It
The
wasn't
director?
the so-called managers. So-called what?
Oh, I don't know. No, who fought you the most?
The other
The
people,
workers?
in the ones that were getting poisoned by the carbon monoxide. They were the ones that were arguing against, in fact, getting rid of me, and I'm saying, okay, I'm just volunteering here. Like, I'm willing to go. And this is the nonprofit system. And you know what made me sick the most was the elitists that run the nonprofit because they're getting paid millions and millions and millions. I literally interacted with some gentleman. He was on some workfare, whatever it was, welfare, EBT, whatever it is, food stamp, whatever. And he said he still lives with his mother, right? And he's in his 50s, right? And he said to me that his mother could kick him out at any point, right? And he wants to help with the rent. But you know that welfare and food stamps and they don't give you any money, right? They don't give you any cash. You can't give anything to your mother, right? So he said he wants some cash, right? And he had experience with other things. And of course, what they
There's always
do,
ways around it, right? There's always ways around it. So
but what they did, it just to it's long story, make it short, is that they sent him on this whatever it's called, it's some workfare thing, and they paid him like $19 a week or some ridiculous number. And he was working 9 to 5 in the kitchen, being practically the kitchen manager, overseeing inspections and all that. And it was like $90 a week, or and I'm thinking $90 every 2 weeks or something like that. And I'm thinking, that is slave labor. That's ridiculous. So this is and it's all run by the nonprofits. So who do you think is getting paid in these nonprofits? It's the
executive,
appointed, the patronage people are getting paid
the
400,
VP.
500, 600.
Yeah.
In the next video, we should go into the
And this is common.
990.
This
Say
is what
again?
it's all about, really. This is really very, very common, and very common in the homeless industry as well. The directors and actually a lot of the Democratic leadership actually installed themselves as homeless directorships and make
Exactly.
excellent
And so the 990 forms in the government, does anyone know that all these nonprofits at a certain level, I think, have to file this 990 form? You could look it up in Google. You could just say 990 Finder. The one I find the best one is this ProPublica one. And you can search ProPublica 990, and then you could put in any name or any nonprofit name, the name of individuals too. So if you know someone working in a nonprofit, you can see all their nonprofit jobs, all, and their salaries if they're above a certain level. I believe that all nonprofit employees should be public, right? Because they're already getting an enormous benefit from the state and from the federal, the government.
So the club, if I'm not wrong, what are they doing with all that money? Because that's a lot of money.
Well, I
They kicking
don't
up the candidates,
know.
they kick up the party leadership, or
Well,
they
let's
having
look.
events.
Yeah, New Kings Democrats. Let me just see if we
'Cause
can
they could
see
kick some money
extent.
my way, so I could do this. You know, what I mean, that would be great if they could kick in some money for this upcoming, you know, town hall on childhood education.
What I
Or
see in the public
some of the
data
cost
is
for the event.
I
Yeah.
I don't know that the public data has to disclose. I think on their website they may list all the things they spend on, because I believe they, insurgent
Okay.
groups always want to be more transparent, right? Because that's their benefit. And the non-insurgent group doesn't want to be transparent. And so, yeah, because I'm also using the phone, so let me just plug this in.
Yeah, I wonder when they're gonna roll it out so that it has, it can be, because
Oh, sorry.
this new
I'm,
thing is only on phone, the
yeah, this
YouTube.
is on phone, but I have a charger right here, so I can. And I think, I don't know if I could turn it upside down. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to let me turn it up. No, it's going to want
Maybe it's
me.
a good place to like end it soon. Yeah, we've been on for about a
Yeah, we
minute.
might want to pause for a bit, but I do want to put in the live stream. So your question about, and I'm a little bit tilted because I have to keep this phone up, but your question is a very valid question. Where is the money going? Right. And so that's all in that link, in that elections link /elections titleforce.org. And it tries to put everything in one place. So let's end with you telling us about how people can contact you and websites, and then I'll put in, we could put it in the
Absolutely,
chat
yeah.
too.
Okay. I just actually got the new URL called nycstreetactivists.com, and I'm actually dgl7.com. But actually, as a subset of my site, I'm going to have nycstreetactivists.com. I also bought I think something politic, right? Teaching politics, so school of politic, right? So I'm gonna actually have that, and I'm gonna have different resources for different activists. So I'm gonna have your title force as one of those. I'm also going through an eviction myself, so I've actually uncovered a lot of documentation about fighting off evictions. Also, something called the 960 in public housing. There's something called the 964 regs. These are the federal HUD distributions, as in terms of the management of public housing and how you are allowed to own your own apartment. And I'm going to make a lot of these other resources available for people that are out there, right? Rep my block, rep your block, right? I also I don't know. Do you have what? Oh, your website, right? I also have a network on my website, djoseph.com, a network of other activists that you can get in contact with. So
Right.
if you're an activist, whatever issue you're working on, you could probably find some in my network that might be useful. Oh, besides
Ex-
that, I also have upcoming. I mentioned the childhood education stuff. I have an event calendar. One thing that I'd really like to do soon. I had a talk with a guy who's actually, I think, deaf, who's running for Manhattan Borough President, and we know that the disabilities group is actually the second largest minority group in the nation, often determined to be second largest minority group. For New York City, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they're like down like third or fourth, but there's significant force as in a democracy or republic, whatever we're in. You need coalitions to get your way if you're a minority. So let's band together and let's get this power.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, my phone fell. But yeah, you're exactly right. Coalitions are right, and we should continue on 990 nonprofit. And it's all about transparency. New York City Office of Management and Budget transparency is down to zero, almost. It's like looking at concrete. And yeah, try to look through concrete. It's very hard. And so the events you talked about, I'd love to attend. We can post in the, I just posted the total that seems to be associated with New Kings Democrats in these campaign finance disclosures. All this stuff, people, as you said, if we don't have a coalition, and we don't have civic organizations, and we don't have transparency, and we don't have awareness, then the party boss will continue to do what they want because the US Constitution protects them, right? They have a right to their speech. But if voter turnout continues to be so low, then obviously the people that turn out are the ones in the know that are getting the graft and getting the patronage. And so the other people will be hurt by that. And think about it, future generations deserve better than what we have right now, right? Don't you want your children to live in a better world than the current situation here in where we have indictments every day, or almost every day?
Yeah, I just want to push back just a little bit on the fact that the party leadership establishment are the bad guys. The fact of the matter is that I feel like the people that they're fighting within their own party are also engaging in underhanded tactics. So they're kind of forced to play that way. You know what I mean? So the thing is that it's easy to say they're the bad guys. I'm not saying they're the good guys either. They know what they're up to. But we as a society have to set the conditions of the game correct. So the thing is that the reason why the game is messed up is because we allowed it to get messed up. You know what I mean? So the only reason why those party leadership can get away with these things is because we are not paying enough attention. Thanks again for making the tools that you have available. Nobody paid you for those tools. Those are valuable tools. Unfortunately, right, most of us are paying attention to the other things going on in our life, right? It's Easter, it's 420, right? I want to do this, I want to do that, and it takes time to watch material like this to learn about it. But really, in the end, without power, there will never be justice. So they'll sell you a, pleasure island type of, you can be entertained or buy these solutions or, but it's going to just turn you into an ass. So make sure that you are responsible, right? Have fun, but be responsible.
It sounds like Pinocchio, exactly. And uh, what you said about apps and stuff, anyone out there that wants to collaborate on marketing or be in a co-stream or speak about this, and you're right, the party bosses are doing what the party bosses do, right? So I'm not against anybody. I say, let's bring a light, let's shine a light on that so that the public, instead of listening about disgraced Cuomo, why don't we look at local things that are happening here, right? At things that at Cuomo level is pretty removed from us. I mean, it's very important, of course, but you can't change that. You can't just go right to Cuomo or the governor and change that, right? You have to start at your local level, right? Because that's what they did too. Cuomo wouldn't be anything without his father, right? His father, he ran the. I listened to the audiobooks about Cuomo. Wow, I recommend it to anyone, but don't buy them. They're all free on internet or library, or don't give them any more money, please. And your money is your control, so don't waste it, right? And so let's continue the next one since it's about an hour and 30 minutes. Let's continue the next one on nonprofits in 990 and any other topics you have. And anyone who wants to collaborate, please post, contact us, contact me, Title Force, Ralph at TitleForce.org, and Ralph at Brooklyn Marathon, whatever works for you.
Yeah, contact me if you want to work on the childhood education town hall. That's going down May 17th.
Cool. I'm going to put it in the chat, Ralph at Brooklyn Marathon.
Yeah.
And feel free. I don't know if the chat stays after it ends, but we'll just end it there unless you have any other closing thoughts. If you want, if you have other topics, we don't have to end it, but I thought be respectful
No,
to you.
no, I do want to end it. Let's get to the.
You do.
I have so many
Hey,
other things that I'm doing right now. Yeah. I'm
cool,
actually.
cool.
I got my court case on Tuesday, so we're going to see what happens. I did not actually file for the 14-day delay. I was told that it's probably better to do that and let the judge do that. So we're going to see if that plays out correctly. That's going to be interesting. I got to get my paperwork together. So
If you
there we
want
go.
me,
Right.
yeah, if you want me to attend or anything, let me know. And as a
I really
witness or
appreciate that.
something.
Maybe. Yeah.
Cool.
By the way, are you on my mailing list?
I don't think so, so I'll try. If I go to the website,
Okay.
or
I'll see your emails in the
I
chat.
can
I'll
just
put
search
them.
on Google.
Oh yeah, dgl7.com. You could just sign up for the mailing list right there.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, brother.
Yeah,
All right.
ciao.
Have a good one.
Ciao. Yeah, thank you. I'm
Okay, thank
I'm hanging up. Oh, cool. Bye. Bye.
you. All right, cool. Thank you.